The new Form W-4 for 2026 has now grown to 5 pages. The IRS added another page to include a larger itemized deductions worksheet to address the new items in the Trump Tax Bill 2025. Don't worry, I will walk you through the form here to explain all the changes, and if you want help filling it out, jump over to W4wiz.com and I will give you a personal walkthrough of the new form. As I was saying, the new form is 5 pages long. It is now much like completing a short form tax return. If you are single with no kids and no deductions, it's very simple. For everyone else, not so much. For married couples and people with kids and itemized deductions, there are some key things you need to be aware of. Let's start at the top and I will walk you through all of it. To start with, you will put your name and address in step 1 right here. Now, as Benjamin fills this in, you should know that if you haven't changed employers, you are not required to put in your social security number. If you are starting a new job, you will need to add your social in step 1 be like so. Select your filing status in 1C, married or single or head of household. As you can see, Ben is married. If you don't know if you qualify for head of household, we have that information on the website. Next is the multiple jobs worksheet or spouse work section. Step 2. This applies to you if you have 2 jobs or if you are married and both spouses work. The IRS estimator noted here is a lot of work and doesn't actually do a W-4 form for you. Part B sends you to page 3 of the form where there is a worksheet. That worksheet sends you to a lookup table on page 5. Silly, I know, but that's how the form works. What the IRS is doing with this exercise is using your wage information to adjust your withholding to the correct amount so that you are not underpaid. Don't skip this. If you are underwithheld at year-end, the IRS will penalize you on your tax return. The penalty rate is currently 7% compounded daily. They will send you a nasty letter with the penalty and possibly add on late payment penalties as well. It is good to not be underpaid. By the way, we will do the multiple jobs worksheet for you and your spouse at W4wiz.com for the price of a cup of coffee. At the bottom of step 2 is a box here, 2C, to check if you are married, filing jointly, and want to simply split the standard deduction. This works if you both have similar wages. It is not to be used if you itemize deductions on your tax return, and we generally don't recommend using the box. It is not as accurate. I will cover the details of the worksheets and the lookup tables as we go through each page. Next on page 1 is step 3 for dependents. This year there is $2,200 dependent credit for each of your children under age 17. That is up $200 from last year. Those go here on line 3A. For example, if you have 2 qualifying kids, you put $4,400 on this line. On line 3B, you get $500 for each of your other dependents who are age 17 to 23 who live with you or are full-time college students. For more details, see the instructions on page 2. By way of example here, for 2 college students, put in $1,000 like so. Then your total on line 3 is $5,400. But wait! Listen up. It is important to point out that if you are married and both working, you will need to make a decision on how to split these dependent credits between both of your forms W-4. If you both take them, you will be underwithheld and end up owing tax. Depending on your wages, we have some specific recommendations for you on the website. The total on line 3 is also supposed to include other credits you may have, such as dependent care credit, foreign tax credit, education credits, and the like. See the instructions on page 2. Again, you will need to split these credits between spouses. We're moving on now, down to Step 4. Step 4A is for other income, such as interest and dividends. Only include it here if you want to have income tax withheld for that through your payroll. For example, if you have $2,500 in interest income from your bank account, you can put that in here like this. On Step 4B, you claim your itemized deductions. This line points you to a deductions worksheet on page 4. This worksheet is the new page for 2026 and is very lengthy. It has been expanded from last year to include new deductions allowed by the Tax Act of 2025. It addresses tips, overtime income, and car loan interest deductions. There are limitations on all of these based on your income. If you don't anticipate any changes to your itemized deductions from last year, simply pull the total amount from your Schedule A or line 12 of your 2024 Form 1040. Then you can avoid filling out this long worksheet. But remember, if you and your spouse both work, you will need to prorate all of these deductions between each of your forms W-4. Because the new deductions worksheet on page 4 is so lengthy, it will be the subject of another video on this channel. Line 4C is labeled Extra Withholding. It is really mislabeled. If you are married, filing jointly and ignore this line, you may be under withheld. It should be labeled the Married Withholding Adjustment. This amount comes from the combination of the multiple jobs worksheet on page 3 and the tax chart on page 5. You must complete the worksheet on page 3, which references the tax chart on page 5. Once you do all the calculations, you will get a number from the worksheet on page 3 that you input here on line 4C. And once again, you will need to split this amount somehow with your spouse if you both work. More on this later. Since this is a complicated process, it will be the subject of another video on this channel. Too much to cover here. You can also add your own estimate of additional tax to be withheld here on each paycheck if you would like. And lastly, here in Step 5 you must sign and date the form W-4 at the bottom of page 1 before you turn it in to your employer. Moving on to page 2 of the new form, you can see these are the detailed instructions. Enough said. Page 3 is the multiple jobs worksheet I just mentioned a little bit ago. Look for another video on this soon on this channel. Page 4 is the new deductions worksheet. Again, as I previously noted, this is a lengthy worksheet that will be the subject of another video. And finally, page 5 is the tax chart to be used with the multiple jobs worksheet. So, as you have now seen all the pages of the new form, you know that it is truly like a short form tax return. Thank you for your attention here. Stop by to visit me at W4wiz.com and look for more information on this channel.